Have you ever considered the possibility of God experiencing reincarnation? A wild thought, isn't it? Picture the divine, omnipotent entity, swapping celestial robes for the humble attire of humanity, getting caught in the relentless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. A cosmic conundrum, a divine paradox. Imagine God, the architect of galaxies, playing the role of a non-believer, a skeptic, a doubter. From the primal existence of a caveman to the tormented life of a Vietnam veteran, from being marooned on a desolate island to the reign as a king of the midgets. Picture him as a bumbling wiccan, a Boy Scout leader, a prisoner, a mafia hitman, a Santa Claus stunt double with a trigger-happy reindeer, and even an individual plagued with paranoid schizophrenia chatting up with himself. In each life, the curtain falls with the same line, "I just remembered, I'm God." Join us as we journey through the many lives of God, each filled with its own unique trials and tribulations. Imagine God, once the ruler of the celestial, now a caveman, struggling to make fire. Picture this, the omnipotent being, reduced to rubbing two stones together, grunting in frustration. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, from commanding the elements to being outwitted by a piece of flint. There's a divine humor in this, isn't there? Now, don't get me wrong, he's not a complete Neanderthal, he's still got that divine spark. But it's like trying to light a bonfire with a single matchstick in a hurricane. It's a comedy of errors, watching him wrestle with his primitive surroundings. The irony is not lost on us. The creator of all things, who once shaped the cosmos with a mere thought, can't even shape a decent spear. And as he grapples with his new existence, he's hit with a revelation, but it's too late, his time is up. And as his life ends, he whispers, "I just remembered, I'm God." In a twist of fate, God finds himself accused of witchcraft during the Inquisition. Talk about divine irony. Picture this, the Almighty, the big guy upstairs, the creator of the universe, standing before a tribunal of mortals accused of heresy. The same God who once parted the Red Sea is now trying to convince a crowd of pitchfork-wielding peasants that he's not a witch. Imagine the scene. "Sure, I can turn water into wine, but that's not witchcraft. That's just my party trick," he pleads. But alas, the crowd is not convinced. They see a man who defies the laws of nature, a man who claims to be God. And what do we do with witches, folks? That's right, we burn them. As the flames lick his feet, God utters his last words, a punchline for the ages. "I just remembered, I'm God." Picture God not as a divine entity, but a war-ravaged Vietnam veteran. Now, isn't that a plot twist for the ages? This is a life where the man upstairs swaps heavenly robes for combat gear, a halo for a helmet. Imagine it, the creator of all things trudging through the jungles of Vietnam, the stench of napalm replacing the sweet scent of ambrosia. His divine powers are gone, replaced by an M16 rifle and a prayer for survival. Ironic, isn't it? Instead of parting seas, he's dodging bullets. Instead of turning water into wine, he's rationing canned beans. Is this some sort of divine karma, or just the universe's way of saying, "How do you like them apples?" Even in the face of despair, he keeps his humor intact, making dark quips about the absurdity of his situation. But as the life ebbs from him, his last breaths are spent uttering, "I just remembered, I'm God." Imagine God, once the ruler of all, now the king of the midgets. Quite the tumble from grace, wouldn't you say? Here's the one who crafted galaxies, now presiding over a mini-kingdom, his divine robe substituted for a tiny crown. There's something about the irony of it all. The grandeur of the cosmos reduced to a pint-sized domain. Our once omnipotent deity now struggling to reach the top shelf. It's like watching an eagle trying to mingle with sparrows. Yet in his small kingdom he finds a sense of belonging, a community that looks up to him, quite literally. They may be small in stature, but their hearts are enormous, their spirits indomitable. In their company, God learns humility, resilience, and the true meaning of leadership. But as the curtain of life falls, he lies on his miniature throne, his last words echoing through the halls of his tiny kingdom. As he passes, he whispers, "I just remembered, I'm God." Picture God, the creator of all, now an unsuccessful wiccan. Yeah, you heard that right. Our divine overlord, the one who commanded the cosmos, couldn't even conjure up a decent protection charm. It's like Picasso struggling with a paint by numbers. He was the laughing stock of his coven. They'd snicker as he fumbled through incantations, tripping over Latin phrases, and then there was that one time when he accidentally summoned a squirrel instead of a spirit. Imagine the supreme deity, the celestial architect, being outsmarted by a bushy-tailed rodent. And don't get us started on his attempts at divination. Let's just say his tarot card readings were about as reliable as a weather forecast. Yet, amidst all his trials and tribulations, he remained hopeful, always striving to better his craft, only to be met with more failure. And then, as his life dwindled away, he uttered those fateful words, "I just remembered, I'm God." Imagine God, once the giver of life, now a failed stunt double for Santa Claus. Yes, folks, the same divine entity who once parted the Red Sea now struggles to shimmy down a chimney. Picture this: the omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent God, red-suited and rosy-cheeked, unable to remember the one task he has, delivering gifts. In a twist of cosmic irony, he who once received prayers now gets letters addressed to Santa. And oh, the reindeer, we're talking about a deity who could command legions of angels, but now can't get a bunch of reindeer to pull a sleigh. It's not easy being God turned Santa. But the real kicker? He's scared of heights. That's right, the one who floated in the void of nothingness now can't handle a 2-story townhouse. But even in this comically tragic existence, as he slips from a rooftop, he meets his end and gasps, "I just remembered, I'm God." Picture God, once the voice in everyone's head, now a paranoid schizophrenic who talks to God. Quite a twist, isn't it? The Almighty, who once whispered wisdom and guidance into the minds of the faithful, now pacing nervously in a cramped apartment, having a tête-à-tête with himself. This is God's 30th life. He's been everything from a caveman to a mafia hitman, but this life is by far the most ironic. The divine irony of God, now a man who people dismiss as mad because he claims to talk to God. Well, who can blame them? After all, how often do you hear about the supreme being chatting up himself? God, the paranoid schizophrenic, wasn't always like this. Once, he was a regular man, but then the voices started. Whispers of divine wisdom, visions of celestial grandeur. They told him he was special, chosen. And why wouldn't he believe them? After all, he was talking to God. But here's where it becomes a divine comedy of sorts. God, the paranoid schizophrenic, is not just talking to God, he's talking to himself. Imagine that, the creator of the universe, the Alpha and the Omega, conversing with his own divine echo. It's like a divine version of self-talk, only with more existential dread and less motivational quotes. But alas, even in his madness, there's a glimmer of truth. This man, dismissed by society as a madman, is actually the one they used to pray to. How's that for a holy plot twist? Yet as life has a way of doing, it eventually comes to an end. And as the schizophrenic God lies on his deathbed, a final realization dawns upon him. A realization that has come to him 30 times before. The voices, the visions, they weren't madness, they were memories. His last words before his passing, "I just remembered, I'm God." And so the cycle continues.